And welcome back to A.R. Tales, aka the A.R.T. podcast. I am A.R. and today I am joined by Lucien Telford, Couch Writers Unite, great friend of the podcast. He is actually one of the Frisian brothers from the Frisian Press, started by P.L. Stewart that came on for the first time, and then I met Lucien through him, and we have been genuine peers since then. I'm over the moon to get him back on the podcast because we're on similar paths right now, similar phases of the writing process. Him with the sequel to his debut novel, The Sequence. And if you have not picked that up yet, make sure to do so. Mind-blowing story. I always think back to the concept of hiding murders and bodies in the chaos that comes through natural disasters. Like when you talked about that in the first episode, the first time that you came on, it blew my mind back. It still blows my head just thinking about it every single time that we talk about our books and talk about how our processes go. I can only imagine the craziness that comes out of your head and how it's going to keep on going and spiraling out for the sequel. We talked about the sequel in the past. So without any further ado, how you doing, Lucien?
I'm great and really happy to be here. That's quite an intro. It's hard to follow.
No, it's all genuine.
Thank you.
No, of course. I genuinely always think about that conversation that we had, not only just from the writing process in general, how similar things are, but also just what you do. Without getting too personal, you are a pilot, and you get to see the pictures that you send me are just one of a kind. There is no other way that I would even see those things without either following a pilot on some type of social media platform or knowing you. Only possible way I can see those type of pictures, and just how that type of experiences melds into what you can write about, and your ability to just pick and pull and manipulate the way is just unreal. One of the coolest core professions an author can have, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique perspective that we have from up there, and I do try to take some pictures. When things are unique, right? Like when it's all about lighting, they say with photography. So I try and take those pictures when the light is low, and the really good ones I send to you.
Honestly, I need to have like a little collage on the website in order for just like those pictures, because they are phenomenal. It actually leads into something I wanted to talk about, because I feel like it has to do more with the tail end of debuting the first book and kind of juggling what I'm about to talk about along with writing your second, and it's promotion, marketing. What can authors do in order to really push the limits on what you do? And I think it's something that everyone can work on, can recognize. Even people that are traditionally published, that are big names in themselves, they have to market in some type of way, maybe not to the extent that an indie author would have to. And I know you work with Frisian Press, but still a lot of that falls on your shoulders. So how do you attack it, and how do you see the differences and how fast everything is changing?
Well, obviously it's been a big learning curve for me. I was speaking to a book owner here in Whistler, or bookstore owner here in Whistler, and said more and more, even nationally published authors have to do, as much work as we do as indies to promote their work, and the divide is decreasing. So like as much work as I have to do for promotion, which is an enormous learning curve. If you and I had traditional deals, we would also be doing that much work as far as social media posts go, getting out there and doing book signings, all the legwork that I at least think or thought that I wouldn't have to do as a trad published author. It's not the case. I would have to do all of that work. So what do I do? Well, at the moment I do as much posting on my social media as I can. One of the things my promotions specialist at Friesen Press told me was that I, as you have noted, I have an interesting profession and an interesting life. So he said, post as much of that as you can, because people love, as you just said, people love seeing photos from the flight deck, and it's a unique perspective. And he said, weave that into your storytelling and make it part of your brand. Excuse me. And that's really the biggest lesson I've learned from becoming an author is branding is huge. So I have some pro photos that I had taken. Make sure they're the same one across all of your platforms. I've seen some people with shamelessly plug my book. This is quite a striking and unique color scheme on the front. And for the sequel, which I haven't completely finished yet, but I'm going to need to do something similar. And the successful books that I see, even in indie, they have their covers are similar, and that's the brand, right? So what am I doing? All of that.
Well, I love what you said because it really struck something that I think is very powerful, the whole idea of branding. One of the most prominent things that I've learned in the year and change that I've been doing this now is that people want to be sold something without being sold something. So for example, if you own a fashion line and you just post a picture of a hoodie, it's not going to get as much traction as some random person doing some event or some type of like cool motion, skateboarding, whatever it may be, and they just wear that hoodie and you just know, oh, by the way, you can find that hoodie here. That's going to get way more traction than the simple hoodie post in itself. So
yeah, people want to buy a story, right?
Exactly. So noting to what the specialist said from Friesen Press, it immediately makes me think of like, imagine the opportunity where you kind of like show off that point of view that no one else would see, and then just drop a book every here and here. You take a picture every time you're in Cuba, at a new resort, every time you're flying, and just in the corners like, oh, reading this, reading that, or take a picture of a coworker doing that, and immediately people are going to go without even, because they just know that they're here for the cool moment, for the story, as you said, but then they stay for your work. And I think that in itself is something that everyone needs to capitalize on. The most successful authors, indie authors, traditional authors that I've seen know how to employ that perfectly. They know how to integrate the things that they're interested in, the things that get people to come in, and then they kind of like hit them with a mousetrap and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm also an author. They're like, I already liked you, so I'm going to continue liking you.
Yeah, and I think, where a traditional publishing deal may benefit the author is that they will have a promotions team that know how to do it, and will probably do a lot of the promotion for you versus showing you how basics, how to do it, and then saying off you go, which is kind of what happens to indie authors, as you know, right? There's no hand holding. This is what we've seen success with, and go do it yourself.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Yeah, it's like you're on a plane, you get fitted for a straitjacket and they just throw you in the middle of the Atlantic at midnight, and they're like, all right, figure it out. You got that, right?
Yeah,
good luck.
Yeah, you got this. You know how to do it. We told you how to get out of it, so figure it out.
Exactly. Like, you read the manual, right? Come on,
So let's talk about TikTok, because I don't.
Yes.
TikTok. I know about Booktok. I know you sent me a message a few days ago talking about how much traction you got. So, but Let's talk about it. Why don't you educate me, because I'm old, and I'm in the old guard of Instagram and Twitter.
Well, I'll tell you right, like I told you then, I'll tell you now. If you're old, I'm old because I'm lost. Somebody,
Yeah.
a friend that I recently interviewed, and we've been becoming more friendly as we talk through Instagram, taught me about screen recording. I'm 28 years old, and I got taught like I'm 40, like I don't even know what, like I'm 97 years old. How to screen record on my iPhone. I had no idea how to do that, and now it's something that I can now integrate within my promotions of it. I'm completely out of the loop on most things. All I can do is simple math and data, right? What I've noticed immediately on TikTok is there just is a simple increase on just people looking at you. The example that I gave you is I made a post on Instagram, a reel, you know, as with most people would say, worked hours on it. Of course, I got like a couple hundred views on it. And that was over 2 months of its lifetime being posted. Final number was around like 350, maybe 450, around there. I started a TikTok and posted this video 2 days ago. And within 8 hours, it was up to about 900 views. And that is on Instagram. I have 2,000 plus followers, talked to a couple different people. On TikTok, I had absolutely nothing. So I immediately saw that uptick on simply just switching platforms on the same exact content that I made. And if anything, quality was a little lower because instead of creating the video on Instagram and posting on Instagram, I just transferred it on over. But still, the traction was there. And I can tell you 100%, not only did I not know about TikTok, I distinctly hated it at first. The whole idea, I felt like it was like a degradation of society. It was it was like seeing locusts in the fields. You know what I mean? It's like, this is where we're going.
Exactly the same way.
Like, this is where we're going. We're going from TV to now 14 seconds is too long for you. 14 seconds. That's too long now. But you just have to learn how to swim.
Twitter started it right with 140 characters or whatever it is. And now we're down to 14 seconds. That's all you get.
That's what you get. That's what you get to really push a work that you've been working for years. Years has to now be compressed to 14 seconds. And you see it even outside of our industry. You see these artists, these wood craftsmen that will take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however many months of work, and compress it down to a 30-second reel just so that people can look at it for 4 seconds and be like, oh, awesome. Like, and then go on to the next video. It is just, as negative as it is, it's like I said, you just have to learn how to swim. For as against it as I have seen people use it a little bit and skyrocket. So
that's a great analogy.
You just have to learn. Yeah, we just have to learn how to swim. For as dangerous and as how questionable the waters are, you gotta learn how to swim.
Hopefully there's no sharks. I do need to learn to Booktok. My wife is younger than I am, and she TikToks. She sends me TikToks all the time, and they are funny. And you know, when I see people like Ryan Reynolds doing TikToks, that gives me pause and says, you know, I should be doing the same thing. If Ryan Reynolds is doing it to promo movies, then why aren't I doing it to promo books?
Yeah, again, I think it's just one of those things of even when I started this, I was against Instagram, to be completely honest, because I hadn't had one, and my idea of it was just like people taking pictures of them at a beach and posting 40 pictures of that, but then they work at some office space, so like they're just like showing a life that they don't actually necessarily lead. But that's a full different conversation. But when I've got on there, in reality, there are of course people like that, but there is also a lot of people just sharing the creativity and trying to get to promotion while also building communities. And I feel that TikTok, for as annoying as it could be, I think it's just another platform in order to do that. And it kind of reaches a younger audience, which is also always great. The people that even if they're 14 years, a book lasts forever. So the people that may be too young now, if you instill that seed in them now, they can grow older and become a fan of your work. That's always a possibility.
And that brings me to my next question is, through Booktok or TikTok likes, how much I mean, you just started, but like how much are people seeing sales increase as a result of things like TikTok? I mean, I find Twitter seems to drive sales a little for me.
Definitely.
But the biggest thing for me was well, recently anyway, there was a writers festival here in Whistler, and just talking to other authors and non-authors, just readers that are interested in meeting authors and being part of the process of learning to create. Maybe they've got an idea that they want to discover and write more about. They just meeting people is more important, I find, to drive sales than anything digital. But we've got to do it. I got my phone right here, and I still have to do my daily social media posts. And so what do you think, is my question, what do you think is going to drive more sales?
Well, I can tell you again, I'm more of just like a data person. A person can tell me 1,000 things about this new whatever. Until I see math core data, I'm not convinced.
Okay.
The person that really changed my eyes and opened my eyes into like the possibilities is actually a friend, been on the podcast multiple times, Keely Hargis. Now, she had started a Booktok, I don't know how long ago, but I know that when I initially spoke to her a year ago, she didn't have one. And I spoke to her, I believe, a month ago, a little bit longer than that. And she has blown up. Her Instagram is modest. I would say it's a couple thousand, like I would say most indie authors have, around there, a little bit less. She on TikTok has around 50,000 and growing.
Whoa.
Yeah. And all that happened, as she said, is that she used to just like make videos just for herself, and they would get decent views. It would go from 1,000 to 2,000. She would hit a couple heights of maybe 15,000 on one video, 16,000. Then she just made one random video, and I saw this for myself, 2.4 million views.
What?
Yeah. And again, this was the same.
Did it have anything to do about her book?
Yes. It was that is the one thing that I really will respect, is that she always did that. Even if it was if it started off like, oh, I did a cosplay for one of my characters. It was always something related, even if it wasn't directly related, but it was all roads led back to her book. One thing I always really respected about it, it's not like she was doing makeup tutorials and then like leading it like, oh, by the way, which again, if you're doing that, hustle, do whatever you can.
Yeah. All about the hustle,
do whatever you can. But one thing I really respected of her is that she always kept it on point, on brand. And like I said, this one video, it wasn't even a detour. She didn't do anything out of her comfort zone. It's just that one video picked up, that it just hit the right notes on the algorithm, and she just soared. And she said that one video made a huge. She said that I believe on one day she sold 1,500 copies.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, was how much did it lead to sales? And when you think about those numbers, like 2.5 million views drove 1,500 sales, which is huge, obviously, but that shows how many people you need to see your content to just make 1,500 sales. And I'm not like downplaying how many books that is. It's quite a lot of books in one day. However, if you're not driving 2 million people through your site, then you need to up your game. Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about sequels and re-releases, because I very much enjoyed the re-release, which is not apparently the re-release of your book. It looks really good in paper, by the way.
Thank you.
I had an ARC before, right? And the imagery looks fantastic, and you clearly did some work on your writing. Excuse my voice. I am a little under the weather.
Little hoarse.
Yeah, a little hoarse. Because as usual, you inspired me, and I was like, if I'm gonna get this sequel out in, let's hope maybe April. What if I did a re-release of the sequence and tidied up a couple of little moments in there that I'm aware of? Maybe added a little bit of content. How's the re-release going for you? And are you going to do it with that new artwork? And when I said in our personal chats that I have a collector's edition, because this is not going to be it, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing with the re-release?
Well,
I'm super excited that I have a copy.
Well, again, thank you for that promotion.
No problem.
Especially as an author, it's always one of those things. I'm like, stop it, but please go on, please.
Yeah, please don't stop.
But what I think is really cool about a re-release is the way that Amazon handles it. In that, if you haven't done so, if you haven't even tried around, the files for your book are always changeable. It's not that you put your manuscript, put your cover on, and it's one and done forever, and then you have to get a whole new ISBN for it, and all your reviews get deleted. It's actually not true at all. You can re-release your book at any moment. You can tidy up errors on it. You can tidy up the content, spruce up the book design, change the cover, do whatever you want, and Amazon is going to change a damn thing about it. So all your reviews say everything. I mean, unless you have like very bad reviews and you kind of like want a refresh, but for the most part, you can just keep on going on. It's not a new book. And then as far as bringing new people in, you can just promote it on your end, let people know, new cover, updated cover, new artwork, new book design, better editing.
Does it become a second edition?
No, I guess that's a good question. Now that I think about it, I actually am gonna have to change the little like forward to be like, all right, second edition now.
This says, and I looked because I was curious. It says final edit edition, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, so now I would have to put that as second edition and change up the
final edit edition 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means now I would have to go ahead and change that. But going to the question of like the general question of sequels and how to do them, I think when I spoke about it to a couple of my peers, at first I had a lot of just guilt. I thought it was, speaking to everything about a brand, there's nothing worse than a brand coming out and being like, oh yeah, you know what, we're just going to change everything up after about a couple months of it being released. It feels like you're admitting defeat, but you also have to kind of like humble yourself down and say, all right, but I'm not McDonald's. I'm an author. I'm doing this by myself. I can come out and say, yeah, I made a mistake, and not even a mistake. Like I learned a lot within a year. Let me attack this in the way it should be so I can properly set myself up for future releases. And it's one thing that when I landed on that, I no longer cared about the reception. It was just like, listen, I'm doing this because I feel it's the best route for the book and everything that I want to be doing with it. And when I kind of landed on that, it was gung-ho. It was just idea of like, I'm doing this for myself. A lot of the things that I was really lamented on, I didn't feel as strongly about anymore. I opened myself up for other things, other ways of marketing, other methods in order to get the book out. And when I landed on that, everything just kind of became a lot clearer, a lot smoother. And that was really it. As far as the sequels going, I want to turn over to you. How do you continue the process? How do you, if you're doing anything about a re-release, I would say 100% go for it. It brings new eyes into the first book. It gets the entire series name out there, gets your name out there again. And I think it's also better on your end because you're happier that it's like, all right, not only do I have two books, not only do I have the sequel that's going to be awesome, and I, used it my 2 years, my 3 years of experience in order to make better. Now I can also use that to make the first one better. And now you can buy a whole set of these updated works.
So the sequel, what was the original question about the sequel? What's the process?
Exactly. How are you dealing with it?
I tell you what, I listened to my readers, and who generally asked for more, basically backstory. They want to know more about the characters, which I have and had while I wrote the sequel, or the sequence, sorry. But of course, you're not supposed to just info dump everything about this person. I offered the little tip of the iceberg. So people wanted to know why they are who they are. So that is in the sequel, and I've shown a couple of beta readers, and they loved it. They loved the backstory. So that's where the sequel began, was giving the reader kind of what they wanted, and then letting the story flow. There's not a lot of gap in time between the events at the end of the sequence to the beginning of my sequel. And the work in progress, or the title in progress, is False Ignition, but I'm thinking Zero Ceiling because there's an aviation reference in there. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, but it is largely in the can. I had to rewrite the ending because Russia invaded Ukraine, and I had something sort of similar going on, and so the events of the real world ended up being a little too close to what I'd created. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm rewriting the end, and trying to decide where I want the storyline to end so that I can continue on with book 3, which I'm working on right now. I was working on last night, quite late, for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and yeah, I'm super excited about the next book. The writing is so much better. I've learned a lot from the process of writing a book, going through the editing process. It's and the I don't want to give too much away, but it basically follows 2 timelines, and where they intersect, I am so proud of. It still gives me shivers.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So and then obviously the book continues along a single timeline arc. So it's I think it's so much better than the first book. It answers a lot of questions that people still had about characters in the first one, and yeah, I'm working hard on that and number 3, so that I can make sure that everything is congruent, because I've got a 4th one that I haven't started yet, but I have outlined. So I want to make sure everything flows so that the 4th one is the mind-blowing book that I intend it to be. But I mean, further to the sequel I'm working on now, I really want to knock it out of the park. This book I feel is a great book, but I think there's a lot I could have improved on, and I just really want this second one to hit hard. So yeah, that's what's up.
I mean, I think the first one hit hard. If you're considering that kind of like the jab for your haymaker, then I don't know if I can handle it. Because
I think it's better. It's the end is just better, and hopefully the reveal is as powerful, and way more than the first one. That's the goal. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm taking a little more time on it than I probably should, but I am really trying to knock it out of the park.
Well, one thing that you said that, again, I really like is the whole idea of brand. The whole idea that you're kind of like selling not only yourself, the things that you do, your belief and your core values, or however you want to do it, but also, I would say, almost an aesthetic, and as far as like covers go, the way that you handle everything with that on that front, how do you think you're gonna transfer that for the cover of this next one? Do you think you're going to use a similar type of, because the cool thing about the sequence is that it just has the DNA strand, and
Yeah,
with like the
no,
colors, like almost like
I
it's iconography. Do you think you're gonna go with that type of?
show you the image I have as my wallpaper on my laptop behind me is, or behind you, is this epic DNA strand. And I can't remember where I got it, but I'm sure I'll be able to find it. And it is it's got the double helix twist.
Hmm.
It's black, and if you look closely, it's woven, black is woven carbon fiber, and it's coming apart, and underneath the DNA strand is clearly burning.
Ah,
It is at like I've got to find the image again. I know I have the link somewhere, and buy it and use it, because every time I start up my computer, I look at it and I'm like, yep, that's it.
my God, that's
Awesome.
that is actually perfect.
It's perfect for the
One
story I've written. It is perfect.
God, no, what I love about it is that it doesn't change, but it changes significantly to the
Yeah.
person that's actually paying attention. If
Yeah.
you just look at it, it's like, oh, two DNA strands. But in reality, it's like, all right, you have one and you have the other. It's clear to tell. When you see that, it immediately puts your mind to like, all right, this is Lucien Telford. This is the story I'm going to get. This is the type of writing. I love those ideas. One of the things that I'm actually doing for the cover is that this is the art that I'm using for my next cover. And if you notice, it's kind of like you have like a city in the background. For the sequel, I'm going to use the exact same character, same pose, same everything, except she is not going to have the implant on her neck anymore.
Ooh.
And the city behind her is going to be in ruins.
Relay.
The relay, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's not going to have the implant on her neck, and the city is going to be in ruins. So just to give you an idea of that, different color system, different things like that, so you can immediately tell that it's different, but the same. I think that is my favorite ever. There was a person that redid the Harry Potter covers, and all they did was they just put a simple background with an icon, like with an icon for each book. So the first one had, maybe a thunderbolt on it. The second one was like, a snake. The third one was like a goblet of fire. Oh, I think the fourth one was a goblet of fire. The third one was like, a werewolf. It was just simple things like that that immediately made like, oh, yep, now I know what we're rocking with. I think things like that are the most effective covers. It immediately brings a person in. And for as much as you hate to admit it, people definitely judge by the cover.
Oh,
that's just how it goes.
It's so important.
Yeah.
I didn't know how important it was until long after I'd published this book, which is a mistake. But yeah, it's like 45% of the reason someone will pick up a book is the cover. And then they'll flip it over and read the back cover copy, and that's like another 30%, and now you're only left with 25%, and that might be them opening the book and reading a page. I just took a picture of the image we were just talking about, but it won't let me send it to you for some reason. So.
All right, 1 second. Let me go ahead and load that up so we can show it on the podcast. 1 second. And we are back. We have the cover ready to show. So without any further ado, let me share the screen and show off this cover. And Lucien, if you want, you can go ahead and give some notes on what it is that we're seeing here. Beautiful. As you can see, you have the burning strands of the DNA, the carbon fiber, just phenomenal artwork. And as we talked about, it just mirrors the first book's cover and detail perfectly. So anything else you want to describe about the work?
Well, I mean, first of all, it is not my image, so I still have to purchase this image in order to use it as a cover. However, I did download it and love it, because it's, what I just said was a buddy of mine read the sequence and said, I don't know how you're going to top this because of how you ended the book. and I said, well, what do you do when you've given someone everything? Well, you take it away.
Mm.
And this image, I feel like, shows the burning of a DNA strand. And it's, like I said, it's wrapped in carbon fiber, and the carbon fiber pieces are burning and breaking away. And underneath, the DNA strand is on fire. And I really feel like that is the essence of the book.
And one thing that I love, especially about it, is the idea that it's layered in carbon fiber, which is pretty sturdy material. So it's kind of almost saying that, like, of the resilience of life, but then still the ability that can burn away. That's beautiful art. And again, I am a sucker for mirror images and just how well it goes together with the cover of the first book. I think it is just on the nail for how sequels should be perceived and how sequels should be used, especially if it's on a congruent timeline. Obviously, if you're writing standalone after standalone, you can do whatever you want for the cover. But as far as sequels and series go, I truly think that's one of the best things ever, that you can pick up a book and immediately realize, oh, this is Lucien Telford. I already read this first book. I liked it. I'm going to like this one.
Yeah. And I have a note at the beginning of my manuscript for the sequel, and just about what sequels should be and what they shouldn't be. And it says they shouldn't be repeats. They should be expansions, right? The same, but more. Take the victories from book one and make them consequences in book two.
Ooh. That's really good. That's good.
And I mean, as I'm sure you know, the events of the first book now are backstory for any subsequent books. So I'm really enjoying writing the second one. The first one was a bit hard because I didn't necessarily know exactly what I was doing. I was still taking creative writing classes while I was writing the first one. This one, I have a book which I use as a reference, which I'm not sure where it is right now, but I find it's always good to have reference material for where I'm going, because sometimes while I'm writing, I can be lost in the actual structure that is required, i.e., inciting incident and act one climax and stuff like that, things that have to be in there. So I find reference. It's like a textbook from school, basically, is what I use it for. So
I to avid listener of the podcast, I always go land back on this example. I haven't used it in a while, but when I was writing my first book, just for how, I guess, tunnel vision you can be within your own world without sometimes you need to step back every once in a while to understand what's going on. There was a scene that I had written originally. I think it's chapter 1. I don't know how much you remember of chapter 1, but it's Jid is going through something when the main character is like running through.
I don't deserve this. I remember.
Yeah.
First line.
Yeah. Again, really, pretty proud of that line. I can't lie to you. And because that first chapter actually had the most rewrites. I think I wrote that chapter a solid 25 times.
I think that's pretty common amongst all authors, that first chapter. But also, it's so important. And it's one of the regrets I have about the sequence is that I didn't come out of the gate hitting hard. This next one, I'm really proud of the first chapter because it slams right away, and everyone I've shown it to is like, damn, like that is good. So go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Don't ever say sorry about interrupting. On this podcast, you know how much I interrupt?
Conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But the scene I was like talking about was that Jid is running through the metro. He's late for work, and he has to go in line for a teleporter. And it's kind of the introduction of the teleportation technology within the story. And I remember I posted it somewhere on a writing platform, and not even a writing platform, Reddit. So people were going to be coming at me with this Instagram. Oh, I loved it, but here's a few notes. It was like, yeah, this sucks. You suck. Throw away your computer. But somebody
Reddit is like the asshole of the internet.
Yeah.
All of the douchebags are on Reddit.
I know, but there is some solid critique when you kind of like sift through all that. And there was a person that simply just said, it goes like, how advanced is this technology where the place that he needs to get to is across the highway, as you say, but he has to use a teleporter. What, they don't have bridges? And I'm telling you, it was like mind blowing. I was like, man, I'm an idiot. But I used that realization to better the story, because then I specifically got to write a line where he talks about that he would normally use the bridge, but because of the city and all these things, that's been broken for months. And so he has to use a teleporter. And I think that grounded the story even more, because even in a story of teleportation, they still have problems with the city. It's like, and anyone can go, it's like, oh man, they still haven't fixed that pothole on the 87. Everyone has that feeling. So the mirroring that society is still like that, I think, is immediately grounding. And you can always use those type of situations to make your story more relatable. But you have to step back in order to realize it. Because if otherwise, you're just going to be in there doing useless thing after one another.
Well, and I mean, every now and then I gotta get up off the couch, take the earplugs out, and go for a walk. Or even if I'm back here in a crawl space, which I don't know if you can see, but the ceiling is about that far above my head here.
Yeah.
This is where I do most of my writing now, unless I'm on the couch. And like I said to you the other day, I took couch writing to the next level, and I didn't leave the couch all day. I was all afternoon, earplugs in, pajamas on, wrapped in blankets, and I didn't even want to get up and pick up my laptop. I wrote on my phone.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's writing wherever I end up. And like, as you know, I'm a pilot, so I'm all over the world. I still need a couch or a bed, and I always choose the couch. I was in Edmonton 2 nights ago, and I took the pillows off the bed and I put them on the couch, and I laid on the couch and I put earplugs in and I wrote, because we're couch writers. That's how we do.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel there's always something that we always talk about, but we never kind of went. Right after our first podcast, it was something that we immediately started like talking about, the idea of couch writing. I don't understand any level of stigma around it. I don't understand how it's not a larger platform, especially with the technology that we have now. People, if you're not aware, Word has a free app on the iPhone. You can make the exact, this is real stuff. You do not have to pay for it. Yeah, you can get on it and do the same level of editing that you want, italics, font, however it is, save the document as a doc and send it to yourself, and you can work on it from your laptop when you feel like working on your laptop again. Because obviously you're not going to do like the final editing on your phone. I mean, unless you're dirty. I wouldn't knock it, honestly. But for the most part, I think everyone has like that final laptop view, desktop view on something, and you can just do that by sending it to yourself without a problem. All of my short stories I've written on my phone. Whole chapters of my book I've written on my phone, and I usually just use that process to send it back to myself and reintegrate it into the final manuscript as it is. But any pathway is a good pathway. Writing is,
as long as you get them down so that they don't leak out immediately, which happens to me a lot. I had another couple questions. I know I'm the interviewee here, but about AI, and I think we've talked about this before, but with Joanna Penn and her podcast is Creative Penn, and man, she is the one that I learn about how quick the industry is changing, especially for us indie authors. Like, I can't keep up. Do you use any AI assisted word stuff or artistic like Dolly 2 things to help you with the imagery for your cover? Or I use Per Writing Aid, which is like it's like having a human editor to go through the first pass, right?
What?
Because it can't do content edit. It's not going to say, this
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 scene doesn't
passage
make
doesn't
sense.
work because so and so wouldn't be able to see this. But what it will do is grammar check. It's a very good grammar check, and it says you use this word too many times. You know, you begin your sentences like this. Do you use any software like that?
Well, for the people that aren't viewing, I think the confusion on my face is a pretty good answer because I didn't even know these things existed.
Oh man.
The most I've seen as far as AI goes is that I would see people that would take a picture of their main character, like, you know, a character design, and retrofit it over like, you know, so their favorite like scene from a movie, and basically create like a fake trailer, or like make their character say a certain thing using that. And if I can be completely honest, I never thought the technology was 100% there for that, because you could clearly see that it was just like a painting over somebody's like head. So it never really worked out for me. But I never knew about this AI.
Yeah, no, DALL-E 2 is terrifying. You basically type in text and it will give you a variety of images, but one of them, you know, you can work with and iterate it using the software, and it's putting out some amazing artwork. Per Writing Aid is more of a grammar check, like I said. There's also one called Pseudo-Write, which is doing writing for you. You give it like characters and like scene and a couple of important points and hit think, and it thinks for a second and comes up with copy. So like you can use it if you want. I mean, I've used it just to get some ideas before, but it's terrifying what's going on in AI right now. And not many people know about it. And I only know about it because of the Creative Pen podcast.
Well, if I can be completely honest, when you told me about it, I never thought about it as a tool as much of it as a conversation of AI generation versus real authors and artists. Because I think, well, that's the thing, is that it is a phenomenal tool. But at first, I don't know, I guess I got almost like a way too hippie man, because I immediately just went into like, oh my God, how are we going to compete?
Right.
Versus like, you know, as a species, we're already getting run out. You go to Walmart, you can't get like a teller anymore. There's no like conversation. It's just, yeah, number 4 is open. That's what you get now.
Yeah, right.
Like, I can only imagine that that's going to move on to the creative process as well. It's already that whole uphill battle. But however, I guess until we get to that final point, where Skynet is, you know, well, let's call it what it is, either Tesla or Meta, you know, which one ever gets there first. But until we're at that point, until we get to that point, I definitely think, I mean, just for what you said at first, I can't lie, I was a little disgusted at first. I was like, oh my God, copy. That's what you have to compare to. But when you said to use it in order to get ideas, I was like, all right, now that's a method right there, because you use that idea in order to run off with your own thing and use your own creative process. I talked about it on the podcast so many times. What makes the writing of writing isn't the ideas and the plot, isn't the character. Most things can have similarities to other things. What makes writing is your point of view, how you take your life experiences, the things that you believe in, and you channel into these writing.
100%. And you're right. It took a long time for me to recognize that inspiration comes in all forms. And if I read a book that has some inspirational moments in it that I think, what if this happened to the character instead of this, which is similar but not the same. It's not plagiarism. It's just taking inspiration from somebody else's work and creating your own out of it. Well, that's actually probably largely what happens to all authors. Like, you know, people will people will say they've been influenced by William Gibson, by William Faulkner, by Hunter S. Thompson. I'm just looking at my bookshelf over there. Douglas Adams, you know,
the GOAT.
The GOAT?
The GOAT of sci-fi, if you ask me. That the man just hit it on the nail.
Douglas Adams?
Yeah. He's the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, no,
revolutionized.
I have the Salmon of Doubt over there.
Yeah,
along with the Hitchhiker's Guide. I pull this off the shelf because it's right here. It's super fun. It's the I don't have the cover on it, but it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all 5 of the
No way. I've
and
only rented that from my library.
it's the more than complete Hitchhiker's Guide, and it's got this forward. Some unhelpful remarks from the author. That's how it starts. And it is brilliant. Like, just I'm a huge Douglas Adams fan.
Yeah.
But again, like, I don't copy his work or anything. I just take inspiration from it here and there, reminding myself that humor is important to break tension.
Yeah, I mean, and we're about to get, like, very out there crazy, but to me, the whole thing, especially like the whole sci-fi, the whole thing about like AI and computing and all that thing is that, like, it uses cumulative data, right? The reason why AI is like a crazy idea is that it knows all of humankind, all of human nature, and can build off that instead of like a human that only knows like a certain percentage of it, and we have to get together in order to like make a full picture. To me, that in essence what makes writing great is that every decade we're influenced by the previous decade. So all those things that revolutionized the industry are now things that can be secondhand for the next generation, and then that generation creates the next breakthrough, and then it just keeps rolling in that direction. Authors like Stephen King, authors like Douglas Adams, to me, they scorched the earth of what the industry was at the time and just planted a whole new forest for us to populate.
Right.
And as those things happen, it makes everything beautiful.
Yeah, authors like that don't come along very often. So when they do, like, we do need to celebrate them, but I don't feel like my writing is necessarily on the level of some of these brilliant authors I have on my shelf. But we also don't need to be that great. We just need to be who we are and write well. And like you said, Douglas Adams, man, he broke the genre. William Gibson broke the genre.
Brandon Sanderson, another one.
Brandon Sanderson, I got 3 books of his sitting on the shelf there. I haven't touched yet. Got Raymond Chandler here. If you can see that.
Yeah.
P.L. Stewart.
P.L. Stewart, man.
P.L. Stewart, our brother. Yeah, I've got books here like this, and this is stuff I use just like an AI would at the end of the day. This is just me gathering information. It's called Hacking Darwin.
Exactly.
And it is about genetic engineering and the future of humanity. And guess what I have written about, right?
Exactly. To me, it's all about taking those things and pooling it together to create your own.
Are we any different from an artificial? I mean, an artificial intelligence just gathers all the data and then puts it together and becomes, well, so we're working towards it. And my sequel deals with super intelligence, which I think that book's over there maybe, but the future of artificial intelligence. People talk about artificial general intelligence, which is like acting like you and me. But the book I read here, I've got it right here. Sorry, I'm going off screen a lot, but it's called, shameless plug for people I don't know, Super Intelligence. And it is the paths, dangers, and strategies of going forward with the inevitable, which is we're gonna eventually come across a super intelligent computer. What's it gonna look like? What's it gonna do? How's it gonna feel? And that is the secret sauce in my sequel, which has a lot going on in it.
The secret sauce. God, I love that.
Yeah, it's the secret sauce in my sequel. So yeah. I think I made mention of it before, but yeah, quantum super intelligence is either a terrifying thing or someone we probably won't want on our team, right?
So, well, I guess like everything, it's good to have them on the team, but when they make their own team, it's like, all right, I think we messed up.
Then what?
And then what? We can't win.
We're gonna find out
We'll
in my
definitely
book.
make sure to pick up, by the way, the sequence out now. Amazon, you can get it from Fries and Press. Make sure to do so. I know that you're on the Canadian side, so instead of Barnes and Noble, it's Indigo, right?
Well, yeah, it's Indigo here, but you can buy it at Barnes and Noble as well.
Okay.
And anywhere you buy books, globally, you can buy it at your local bookstore. You can buy it at Amazon. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble, Chapters Indigo in Canada. You can buy it here in Whistler at Armchair Books. Shameless plug. Dan, the owner, I'm actually doing a book signing there on December 3rd.
Okay.
At Armchair Books. The Chapters stores that do have my book on the shelf are booking into 2023. So I'm going to do some book signings then in the future. Yeah.
Big, huge thing is coming out of Lucien. That's why I am so glad that you're back on, be able to talk everything that has happened since we've last spoken. Just the fact that we're on such similar paths with writing in general, and the fact that we're on also the same phase in writing our sequels, I just knew that we had a lot to talk about, especially that we're, I would say, both blissfully lost in the world of marketing, Booktok, and just promoting yourself in general. It is very tricky for anybody, but it feels like, especially for me, it's just like, man, why can't I do this right?
No, it's not just you though, it's all authors, right? Because we would rather be sitting in a crawl space writing on a couch, right, with earplugs in, so I can forget about the real world and go into mine. You are not alone. We are the same, and you and all of us authors, I think, feel the same way. Self-promotion is difficult for us,
honestly. But it's something that we kind of learn from together as we grow together, especially that one of the reason I love the industry so much is very rarely is there any competitiveness. Very rarely is it's like, all right, well, I need to do, well, like this person is competition to me. Every person I've interacted with, all right, let's not be 100% childish. I can't say everybody, but I would say a good 95% of the people I interact with, I am now friends with. There's someone like, oh, I saw that post that you made. How you do that? It's like, oh, I did like this. Oh, I love the way you're promoting your book. How are you doing that? How is that going for you? And everyone is very open, very honest, always willing to give advice if they ask for it. I love it. So as we all just see each other grow, I think everything just comes back home. And like you said, we're the general intelligence. We pick it up, we learn from ourselves and from each other, and the entire industry grows from it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, lots of work ahead.
Lots of work ahead, as
lots
always.
of work ahead. I've got 4 books, so 3 more to write in this quadrilogy, and some of the concepts require a lot of research, so I spend probably as much or more time reading about the things that I don't know enough about, because I fly the jet, right? Like, I'm good at flying an airplane. I don't know a lot about genetics or quantum superintelligences, but I'm learning about it, and I have more than 1 book and the entire internet to teach me. So yeah. How about you? How is the sequel coming?
It is not bad. Like I said, the whole reason I was doing the re-release is because I'm getting to the point where I finally have to turn the manuscript over to other hands, get it into the hands of editors, proofreaders, beta readers, ARC readers, alpha readers, all those omega readers. I don't even know what that means. We'll figure it out. Just go through the whole, exactly. Just go through the whole process of everything until it goes back to you. And that's really it. The main thing I wanted to focus on is everything that you're doing. We're now approaching the end of the podcast, which especially, like, we have gone so over what I normally thought. I think I'm going to have to break this into 2 episodes, but my God, every single time, and it's just worth it. I never think of like, all right, let me wrap this up. I always want to hear more, honestly.
I said earlier, I was like, we're going to need a 3-part series because we're always so chatty.
Yeah, you're not lying. You're not lying. you're one of those people that like, I always think to myself, is like, man, how can I make a spin-off of this? You know what I mean? Like just like the Rachel and Joey part of Friends. Like,
Oh
man, how
yeah,
can we capitalize
just
on
me and
this?
you talking shit about self-publishing.
Oh my God. No, me and you talking about how much we hate promoting and like talking about
That's a 10 part show right there. Just like 10 hours of how much I don't like self-promotion, but
not even. We just show a person that is doing like very well and like what they're doing in promotion, and then just like us after just being like, we gotta compete with that. Throwing stuff at the wall. Like, man, I don't got time for this. I'm not over here making content. I just like I'm already making content of writing. I have to make content in order to promote the content. It's crazy.
yeah.
But as always, for anything that we haven't talked about now, we'll talk about in the future. This is not
Sure.
a one-off guest ever. If you're new to the podcast, folks, this is a continuous loop that we're going to go through. I am always interested to talk about Lucy, and I will definitely have you back for when the book is actually being released and there's a solid cover and title that we can go ahead and promote. But until then, the sequence is out now. Pick it up where you can. There is no shameless promotion here. If anything, this podcast could be called the shameless plug, because this is what we're doing. It's what we're doing here. And if you ask me, it's not shameless. I mean, we're peer to peer and we're talking to people that like writing or for whatever reason like our voices. So either way, we're winning here. Pick up the book and make sure to do so. We will be back next week with another creative, another author. We're going to be talking about what we love and how we love doing it. Make sure to pick up any books by Lucien. Follow him on social media. Send a message. Don't be a weirdo, but reach out if you like his work. And you can find all that information in the description, the banners below. And as always, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lucien, for a couple minutes. If you want anything you haven't talked about yet, any shout outs that you want to give, now's the time.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I love being here and I love chatting with you. I love that we can get heated and interested and excited about not only what we've written, but the process as well. So yeah, thanks. It's been great. And you can find me at Lucien Telford on social media. You can also find me at lucientelfordbooks.com. I have been starting to post some of the microfiction and short stories that I've been submitting to NYC Midnight, which is a writing contest that runs annually. The latest one is it's a 250 word microfiction competition, starts in November. The first one I did was a year ago. I'd never done a writing competition in my life, and I made it to the final round, which of 6,000 some like 6,500 writers, there was got down to the last 125, and I made the last 125. I didn't place, didn't make any money, but there's money to be won. So on my website, lucientelfordbooks.com, there's a few of those posted, and on my blog, which I update irregularly, but I try for once every 1 or 2 weeks.
And again, honestly, if you're not doing it for him, do it for me. If you're not doing it for either of us, do it for yourself. Make sure to follow him on socials, look at the blogs, buy the books. If you're interested in the genres whatsoever, I'm telling you, this right here is the hot take. Definitely worth it. Always a blast just talking to you. And I always use that as a decent gauge point. If you can talk to an author one-on-one, have a good time, imagine the writing. Imagine what they're thinking about when they have time to think about what is being said. Nothing clearer of an indicator than that. And on that note, that's the end of the podcast, A.R.'s Tales, aka the A.R.T. podcast. I've been A.R. This has been the phenomenal Lucien. Always a pleasure. And we will be back next week. Peace out.